सुनियामदेवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैः सुष्ठुवागुंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्ददातु ॐ शान्ति। We start with Narayanji's clarification. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You give your clarification, Narayan.
Oh, can I paste it here?
Yes, please.
I pasted it.
Yeah. Yeah. Clarification, mantra 22. Last but one paragraph, commentary. Continuing the strain of thought, the Guru further declares the self-realized alone can access the knowledge of self. Others at best can gain an objective knowledge of the reality. Therefore, the seeker with the subjective apprehension of the Supreme Self alone can gain the knowledge contained in the Vedas. That's the commentary. The clarification is, continuing, is it the strain or is it a stream? The word, first he's asking, is the word strain or is the word stream? It is the word strain only, continuing the same thought. It's the word strain. It's not continuing the stream of thought.
Oh, strain means effort.
Effort. Continuing the same flow of thought. Strain is the flow. Continuing the same thought flow, he says, the Guru further declares the self-realized one and all. So, it is not stream, it is strain. Strain implies a flow. Here what it means is continuing the flow of thought.
Okay.
Second clarification. Does subjective mean dedicated spiritual sadhana? Because he says, the seeker with the subjective apprehension of the Supreme Self alone can gain the knowledge contained in the Vedas. Now, does subjective mean dedicated spiritual sadhana? Yes. Not merely satisfied with an intellectual comprehension, but making an effort to realize that. That is subjective sadhana. One is an intellectual satisfaction. The logic and reason is very appealing. The logic and reason is very convincing that I am the self. And that itself, and there itself it stops. A person doesn't make an effort to proceed any further. Subjective means a person is willing to make the required effort, the required sacrifices in order to realize what he is convinced about. So again I repeat, he is willing to make the necessary sacrifices to realize about what he is convinced. He is convinced intellectually that he is the self. So the person is convinced that intellectually that he is the self. Subjective sadhana means he is willing to make the required effort and sacrifices. Point number one. Point number two, subjective because it is purely individualistic differing from person to person. It is purely subjective. Subjective means it is individualistic, that differs from person to person. In that sense also it is subjective, meaning a path that one takes will not be the path the other have to take. The other may have to tread a different path. The other may have to tread a different lifestyle. Now the clarity that we have to understand is the path is the same, different lifestyles can be adopted. The path is the same. What is the path? Jnana yogena sankyanam karma yogena yoginam is the path. That path is the same. There is no difference in the path, that people cannot come and follow a distinct and different path apart from this. Then what does it mean by subjective? By subjective, it means you have a choice to choose the lifestyle that you want. And the lifestyle basically is of two types. The lifestyle basically is of two types. One lifestyle is grihastha lifestyle, a householder lifestyle. Another lifestyle is a monk lifestyle, a person who retires to the forest. In the modern day terminology, you can call him a sannyasi. In the Upanishadic times, there is no sannyasi like that. There are only two categories, either a grihastha or a rishi. A rishi means one who has retired to the forest. Nowadays, there is no one who is retiring to the forest. They take an ochre robe now. But what it means is there are two different lifestyles. Two distinct lifestyles that is possible. So depending on your nature, you choose the respective lifestyle and follow the path. If you have the grihastha type of nature, you choose the grihastha type of lifestyle, follow the path of karma yoga, jnana yoga, and attain the self. If you have the nature of the rishi, you can adopt the nature, you can choose the lifestyle of the rishi, pursue the path of karma, jnanam, and attain the self. So subjective means a lifestyle that you can choose to follow the
Self.
the path. So what he means by subjective is not a different path, but different lifestyles. It's a lifestyle choice. Now that lifestyle is dependent on your nature. The choice of lifestyle is dependent on your nature, on your swabhava. Whatever your nature is, you take a lifestyle to that. The path remains the same, the lifestyle differs. So when he says subjective means according to your nature, you choose the lifestyle of a grihastha or a lifestyle of a sannyasa. Of the two, choose one. But path remains the same. When we say path remains the same means jnana yogena sankyanam karma yogena yoginam. Chapter 3, verse 3. In the initial stages, lot of karma and bhakti and less of jnanam. Meaning, in the initial stages, 1 hour of study and reflection is enough. You can't do more than that. Rest of the time is dedicated to karma. And when we say karma yoga, bhakti yoga is integrated with karma yoga here. Actions with devotion. You act with devotion. So in the first stage, you spend a lot of time on karma yoga, and then you drop the vasanas and you mature, you spend more time on nididhyasana. So Shravana, Manana, you do simultaneously along with karma and bhakti. When you mature to a higher level of jnana yoga, what happens is the proportion, the time that you will spend on karma bhakti becomes less, and the time on nididhyasana becomes more. Now, what is meant by Nididhyasana? Nididhyasana means Upanishadic study. Mahavakya Vichara. Upanishadic study is what is known as Nididhyasana. Even when you are in Nididhyasana, you will still be doing some action. You can't sit like a rock for 24/7. Even then, you will be doing some
Obligatory duties.
actions. Some actions will be happening even then. But more time on Nididhyasana, less time on action. In the earlier stages of spiritual path, more time on action and less on Shravana and Manana. That's why Swamiji says, if you do Shravana, Manana 1 hour a day itself is, if you do sincerely Shravana and Manana, 1 hour a day is more than enough. Do karma for the rest of the time. Mature yourself and come to Nididhyasana. Are you okay till now?
Correct. So Nididhyasana is an automatic gravitation.
Gravitation.
You don't need to put effort.
Now, in Nididhyasana also, what the textbook you read in Shravana and Manana is the same textbook you will be reading in Nididhyasana. It's not a different textbook. The same Kaivalya Upanishad that you read at the stage of Shravana Manana, what we are doing now is the same Kaivalya Upanishad that we will be studying in the stage of Nididhyasana also. There is no different textbook that we will be studying there. The text remains the same. What becomes different?
Penetration.
The person who is studying has become different. His vasanas have become less. His penetrating levels are higher, deeper. So that way, when we say Nididhyasana, what we need to understand is, it's the same books that we study now is the same books that we'll be studying in Nididhyasana. It's not a different book. It's not that there is a small set of books that you will study when you go to Nididhyasana. It's not that. It is the same book. Books don't change. Same Bhagavad Gita only you will be reading. Same Upanishad only you will be reading. Same books. That doesn't change. But what changes is the time that you are able to spend on contemplating on the truth is more. There will not be a restlessness to contemplate. Now, there is a restlessness. If you are told to contemplate, there is a restlessness. Meaning, a few things are required for Nididhyasana, meditation. Meditation means the deeper contemplation. And I say so many things means what? I need a book, I need the verse, I need the pen, I need the previous class notes. So much is required. All this is in the stage of Shravana Manana. In Nididhyasana, the verse is internal, the notes are internal, the analysis is internal, everything happens mentally, internally. Nothing happens from outside. To aid in Nididhyasana, in the olden days, what they did, they made you by heart the text first. They say by heart the text, so that when you come higher and higher, you need not go search for the verses. You will know it mentally. And today we record it and keep it in the cloud, no? Yeah. இப்பெல்லாம் cloudல இருக்கணும் இல்லையா? cloudல வைக்கணும். He says keep it here. அப்புறம் cloudல வச்சு அந்த பாஸ்வேர்ட் ஞாபகம் வச்சுக்கணும். If you forget the password, then cloudலயே தான் இருக்கும். It will not be accessible to us. Therefore, what is Nididhyasana? Nididhyasana is a contemplation on the same texts, where the concepts are clear, vasanas are, the bulk of vasanas are reduced, the concepts are clear. When we say concepts are clear, it means no more samshaya about it. That's what clarity of concept is. Clarity of concept means no more doubts, no more questions. All question ends. All doubts comes to an end. It means you have matured in manana. Doubte varlana Shravanave ஆரம்பிக்கலன்னு அர்த்தம். Clear? The doubt varla sir. Everything is so clear, so clear. Na? A Shravana itself is not happening properly. Why? Because so much of contradictions is spoken. How can there not be a
doubt?
How can there not be a doubt? There has to be a doubt, because knowledge speaks so contradictorily that you necessarily have to have a doubt. Then what happens? Shravana, Manana, Karma Yoga is a stage where all doubts are cleared. Samshaya Nivritti. It's called Samshaya Nivritti. Shravana, the purpose of Manana is Samshaya Nivritti. Samshaya Nivritti means doubts are cleared. Doubts are cleared means there is no more doubt as to what is the priority in life. Doubts are removed means there is no doubt about what is the priority in life. Doubts are removed means you will not have many priorities. You will have only one priority, and that priority is to realize the self, and that person becomes the Upanishadic seeker. On the level of Karma Yoga, there are many priorities. Of the very many priorities, Shravana, Manana, Karma Yoga is also one. It's not the only. So first is, of the very many priorities, you keep this as one. Second stage is what? Of the many priorities, you give substantial time for Shravana, Manana, Karma Yoga. Maturity into Nididhyasana means there is only one priority. There is only one priority. What is that one priority? The goal of liberation, moksha, self-realization, Brahman, whatever be it. This is what is called subjective spiritual sadhana in the lifestyle that you choose to follow. You have chosen to follow a lifestyle. That freedom is given because according to your nature, you have to choose a lifestyle. A grihastha type of person cannot sit in the forest. A forest type of person cannot sit in the house. Neither can we say who is superior, who is inferior. Neither can we criticize the fellow who is going to the forest, nor can we criticize the person who is sitting in the house. So the lifestyle is subjective. It's a very subtle distinction. The lifestyle is subjective. The path is the same. There is no difference in the path. The difference is in the lifestyle that you choose. That is how Upanishads gives freedom for everybody. If it says moksha can come only through a particular lifestyle, it means everybody has to adopt that lifestyle. It means even if I don't fit into that nature, I have to somehow fit myself into that nature, force myself into that nature. Like Mullah Nazruddin said, he opened a shoe shop and he had only size 7. The fellow comes with size 10. He says, trim your feet by 3 inches. Shoe size is fixed. Vedanta says you cannot fix the shoe size like that. The shoe size is according to the feet. You don't trim the feet according to the shoe. Now what all religions does it, they want to trim the feet to the shoes. Everybody must come into one lifestyle. Everybody must come into one lifestyle. Everybody must come into one lifestyle. Vedanta comes and says it is subjective. Subjective means dedicated spiritual sadhana in your in your nature. Elsewhere in the Bhagavad Gita, he calls it as Swadharma. You pursue the spiritual path in your nature. You pursue the spiritual path according to your nature. That is called subjective spiritual sadhana. Shreyan swadharmo vigunaha paradharmo bhayavaha. Swadharme nidaram shreyaha paradharmo bhayavaha. Again and again he says, follow your swadharma. Follow your swadharma. What is swadharma means? Subjective sadhana. Subjective spiritual sadhana. Meaning, what kind of a nature are you and where in the ladder are you? Accordingly, you follow the, accordingly, you choose to follow the path. It is called, this is called subjective path. Again, I repeat, what kind of a nature are you? Where do you stand in the path? Accordingly, you choose. How do I know where do I stand? How do I know where do I belong in the ladder? How do I know where do I belong in the ladder? That's where Gita, he gives beautifully. Anju symptom irukka. If you, in the Anju symptom irukkuda, if you have these 5 symptoms, you know where you belong to the ladder. It's a complete knowledge where you can know it by, yourself. You really need not be dependent on somebody to assess you and tell you this is where you stand. You can do it by yourself. And how can you do it by yourself? They tell you very clearly, do you have the symptom of? Yes, 5. 1. Second, who are you, Niketa? What are you answering? If you are asked who are you, what is the answer you give? If you say, I am so and so, na, go back to Shravana Manana Karma Yoga. I am confused. I don't know who I am, na, come to contemplation. I really don't know who I am. Come to Nididhyasana, come to contemplation. If you say, I am so and so, trying to evolve, trying to become a better person, na, go back to Karma, Shravana Manana Karma Yoga. These are the indicators to know where you are in the ladder. Otherwise, it is very difficult to find out where you are in the ladder. And you keep asking, how do I know where am I? How do I know where am I? How do I know where am I? You will know where you are based on these two indicators. So you choose your lifestyle according to your nature. You figure out where you are in the ladder based on these 2 indicators and appropriately follow the spiritual path. This is called subjective spiritual sadhana. Are you able to follow? This is called subjective spiritual sadhana. Wait, I'll come. Narayanji, is it okay?
Okay.
Huh? Is it okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
According to your nature mind.
According to your swabhava. According to your swabhava, according to your nature means, do you fit into the lifestyle of being in the society, or you are aloof from the society? Able to follow? Your nature means of only 2. Are you a social person or are you a aloof person?
Introvert or extrovert?
Introvert or extrovert? Most of the human beings belongs to the society person only. For they need association. They need company. They need association. They need company. The company of few objects, a company of few beings, and the company of those objects and beings being there gives them happiness. The company of them not being there, they feel empty, they feel they are missing something. It means you don't belong to the category of introvert, you belong to the category of extrovert. Extrovert means you have to live, you have to choose a lifestyle of a grihastha, householder, because that's your nature. There is a person who is aloof, a person like Ramana Maharishi, a person like Tapovan Maharaj. They are all aloof. They were never part of the society. Even when people gathered around them, they remained aloof only. People used to sit around them, but he will be looking at the ceiling. He will still be looking at the ceiling only. Are you able to follow? So your nature means, are you an extrovert type? Are you an introvert type? How do I know that I am an introvert type or an extrovert type? Extrovert means more number of objects and beings are required. Introvert means he is happy by himself. He doesn't need objects and beings. He doesn't need objects and beings. That is why he is called a sannyasi. He can, wherever he can sleep, wherever he can. The ordinary person says, new place, no sir, I didn't get sleep. People say that, no? New place, I can't sleep. If I don't have my pillow, I can't sleep. So they carry the pillow also with them. Now, distinct and different from this lifestyle is a lifestyle where anything that is given to you, you can eat. Anywhere you are given a place, you can sleep. Any house you walk into, you feel it's your house. This is introvert. Are you able to follow? Extrovert means even to ask for a glass of water, we feel shy, no? We go into a place, even to ask for a glass of water, we feel shy. We feel, oh, no, it's okay. There is a discomfort. The otherness is, are you able to follow now? Extrovert means the otherness is very strong. Introvert means there is a universality. A person who is of a universal vision and nature need not follow he can choose to follow. We can't say need not. He can choose to follow. He can choose to follow. Therefore, you find a Shankaracharya chose a lifestyle of aloofness from the society. Ramana Maharishi chose a lifestyle of aloofness from the society and not moving about also. Shankaracharya chose an aloofness, but he was constantly roaming around. He was very efficient and dynamic. Ramana Maharishi chose to be aloof from the society and still didn't even move from the town that he entered. So even in aloofness, you see the difference. Again, there are some who gets into the family, leaves the family and go. There are some who gets into the family and stay with the family. All these are subjective. There is no one lifestyle that is common for everybody to adopt. Are you able to follow? So subjective sadhana means you choose a lifestyle according to your nature, and then you figure out where you are in the ladder, appropriately administer the spiritual sadhana to yourself. This is called subjective dedicated spiritual sadhana. Seriya? Is it okay? Is it okay, Narayanji?
Yes, that
Yeah.
that extrovert introvert is also described as in other words, the loneliness is a weakness, but aloneness is a strength.
Yes. Yes. A person with so many people around will feel lonely. That is pathology. That is a diseased state of mind. When a person feels lonely, it's a diseased state of mind. When we talk about aloofness here, it's not a diseased state, but a state of inner self-sufficiency. Loneliness is a pathological state. It's a diseased state. When a person feels lonely, everything is around, but the person feels lonely, no? Everything is around. It's not that the person is not having anything, but the mind feels lonely. Why? Because the boy told me, nobody loves me. Nobody loves me. I said, oh, your father and mother also started hating you, is it? I asked. Nobody loves me. It's not nobody loves me. That one particular person that he wants to love him is not loving. That's all. So he says, nobody loves me. The father and mother is still loving. The brother is still loving. The sister is still loving. The friends are still affectionate, but the mind feels lonely. Are you able to follow the difference? Because it wants from
One particular.
a exclusive person. That is loneliness. And a person who has this diseased state of mind alone will feel lonely all the time. He is the one who will feel lonely all the time because he wants it from a particular person. I told that person, at least articulate your problem well, I said. Learn to articulate your prachana enna teli articulate your problem well. What is your problem? One girl that I want to love me is not loving me, while others are loving. Situation is the same. If you know how to articulate it, understand it rightly, the intensity drops. No, sir, it's not like that. You don't understand that feeling. The boy said, it's not like that. Father loving, mother loving and all is okay, sir. But that love is different. And you don't understand that feeling. I said, correct, but I don't know what that feeling is. Or I never feel loneliness like that. Always there has been, always, right from the childhood. See, even today our family is like that. Any one small thing, any one small function, 20 fellows will join together. If while shaving, if I get a cut, 15 people will come to see me. Even if you are shaving, you get a cut, 15 fellows will come to see what happened. Yeah. Nothing has happened. What will happen? The fellow is not in the ICU. But still people. So where is the loneliness? For there is affection all around. Yeah, there is affection all around. And then from there, straight to the academy. Oh my God, you go there. That's a wonderful whole lot of a family there. So you never experience loneliness at any point of time. Loneliness comes when an extroverted person will experience loneliness. Aloneness is different. Aloneness means not dependent on a particular person. Are you able to see the difference? Loneliness comes when you are dependent on one person. Aloofness, what we mean by alone, the strength of aloneness is you are not dependent on a particular person. Whosoever you come in contact, your affection is the same. Whoever you come in contact, it doesn't really matter. It can be a stranger in the co-passenger in the bus. It can be a stranger when you are standing in the queue. It can be that person. Now, it doesn't matter whomsoever you come in contact with. your affection
Is the same.
is the same. That person will not feel loneliness. That person have the strength of inner alone. Are you able to follow? That is the difference. So extrovert is one who is dependent on just not one. And the mother or group he has. Even if one doesn't cater to him, he feels devastated. That's the extroverted. Like he gives example, no, the fellow will have rings in all the 10 fingers. He will have ring. Even if one ring goes away, he feels so miserable. This is extroversion, meaning more and more and more objects and beings have to be there to keep you peaceful and happy. More and more objects need to be there to keep you peaceful and happy. That is why that's why in the initial stages of Bhakti Yoga, we need very many gods and goddesses also. After a while, it all converges to one God. Are you able to follow? That's why in the initial stages in Bhakti Yoga, we have so many gods and goddesses. And as you grow, even the gods stops. The numbers of the gods that you worship also starts reducing. A time will come where it will only one, and that one becomes a Ishta Devata. For Tyagaraja, Rama became that Ishta Devata. For Tulsidas, Rama became the Ishta Devata. For Surdas, Krishna became the Ishta Devata. For somebody, Lord Shiva becomes the Ishta Devata. Shasta becomes Ishta Devata for somebody else. What it means is, it converges to from the reduction of extroversion is nothing but the plurality shrinks. That is where you shift from extrovert to introvert. That's why we say standardization is a very good practice to move from extroversion to introversion. That's why we talk about why standardization. Standardization is a very good technique for moving from extroversion to introversion. Why? Because you are no more looking at colors after that. There are so many colors. You appreciate those colors. You appreciate it, and that's it. Extroversion will not stop with appreciation. Extroversion will say, it grows in stages. 4 stages it grows. First is appreciation. Nalla irke paakuradhukku. It's nice. Appreciation. It doesn't stop with that appreciation. It says, it's nice to have it. And then it says, it's nice to have it. No, sir. Say, yes, extroversion have started. It's nice, have it. Then the
Vision.
Then the third stage, I must have it. Third stage, I must have it. இதுக்கு மேல என்ன சார் இருக்கு? Fourth stage, that is the extremity of extroversion. I can't live without it. I can't live without it. அது போச்சுன்னா I will die. This is grades. This is grades of extroversion. Again, are you able to follow the 4 stages? I am taking from our own experience and sequencing it. I see a car, I see the review of a car, I see that, and it looks, and I appreciate it. I appreciate the review. I said, wow, fantastic. Have you ever observed, the moment you tell anybody it is nice, invariably they'll ask, do you want it? Have you ever observed that? Such a extroverted nature it is. The person is simply appreciating. He's not saying I want it. Yeah. அதனாலதான் எதாவது பூச வாங்கினா கூட we keep drishti and all to make sure that nobody will say I want it. Why? Because we have to give it. No. Are you able to follow? So the first thing is what? The senses perceives the sense objects and present the sense object to the mind. The sequence drama. This is the drama happening. Intellect illana inna avundradhukku disaster idha. What the senses do? The sense objects contact the senses contact the sense objects and present the sense object in front of the mind, and the mind says nice.
Go.
Appreciates it. It's nice. It appreciates. It doesn't immediately say I want it. It appreciates it. First is appreciation. That's it. Intellect, if intellect can come in at that point of time and say ittoda nipatiko, stop with this, you are an introvert. If the intellect can come in and say the beauty of life is to appreciate it. See, the value, the beauty of life is to appreciate all this. So it says stop here. Intellect, buddhi vela senja, it will say stop here. Illana enna avum? It's nice to have it, no sir. It's nice, no sir. Extraversion has started. Appeal intellect is not there. I'm already having so much. No. What is it that I am not finding in that I'm going to find in this? Intellect starts functioning. I am having so much. What is it that I didn't find in this? I'm going to find that I'm going to do in this. For which the answer is, adukku sir reviews la correct ah padikanum. If you read the reviews, you will know why it is better than the other. Then you can have it, no? Then the third stage, I must. then the third stage comes. I must have it. Fourth stage, I can't live without it. This person will feel lonely all the time. A person who has this mindset will be lonely all the time because the objects continuously keep leaving. The objects keep leaving. The beings keep leaving. Agama payino nityaha tam titikshasva bharata. He said it very beautifully. It is agama payinaha, it is anityaha. It is agama payinaha, it is anityaha. Therefore, the wise one appreciates and stops. Don't think don't think introvert means who doesn't know how to appreciate. He's not an introvert. A fellow who doesn't know how to appreciate it is blind enough. An introvert is not a blind person. He knows how to, he knows the value of it. He knows how to appreciate it. He knows the joy content in it, and yet he says no. And yet he says no. Are you able to see the difference between introvert and extrovert? Both of them contact the same world. Both of them deal with the same world, but the way in which they receive it is very, very different. It's very simple. Appreciating, it's nice. I must have it. But sir, I'm a very righteous person. I will want to have it in a dharmic way. Not in adharmic way, I will not venture. I will pursue it in a dharmic way, but I must have it. I must have it. Last stage says, I can't live without it. Adu illanna I'm finished, sir. If he smiles, I smile. If he frowns, I frown. Are you able to follow? This is called extroversion. Seriya? Is it clear? Naranji, can you go to the third clarification?
Yes, sir.
Huh?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, 1 second, 1 second.
So in this explanation for extroversion,
Yes.
even if it is to just one object also, I mean, it doesn't have to be to very many things. If even there is one external object that I hold, saying without this I cannot live, I'm still an extrovert, despite that it should not be confused with a single pointedness.
Now, the question that Meera is asking is, the question that she is asking is, you can't hear because she's sitting in the front and asking this question. Yeah, they're all cheating, huh? They're all cheating and attending the class here. So they are sitting in front of me and asking this question. So the question that she is asking is, does extroversion means the many, or it is applicable even to
One, just one.
one? It can be many, it can be one. The rule is the same. What?
Dependency.
Dependency. If I am dependent on one, it is still
Extrovert.
extroversion only. In most of the cases, if you assess practically in a human being's life, a human being will not be attached to many. He will be only attached to one or two. He will be just attached to one or two. That's all. He will not be attached to many. Just one or two. Maybe one person, maybe the husband or the wife or the child or the father or the mother,
Or objects.
or some object. So if you look at it, people will not be attached to many, but the intensity in that one or two is so strong that their dependency is
Very high.
very high. Are you able to follow? Just one or two, that's all. Like one of the ladies who has been talking to me 2 weeks back from Hyderabad. She's telling me, sir, I think I'm obsessed with my mother. She's married. Huh? She's married and all that. Poor thing. She has a mother who is deaf and dumb and all that. It is a very, but then obsession is not. There's no need to get obsessed under any circumstance. Okay, you have a mother who is deaf and dumb, but that doesn't justify your obsession, and that obsession becomes the downfall. Are you able to follow? And that obsession becomes the downfall. Therefore, whether it is more or one, the intensity of attachment, the intensity of obsession, the intensity of dependency, that's what matters. Are you able to follow? Dependency means the presence or absence of the object or being, whether the object is present or not, whether the being is present or not, misery will be the result. This is called dependency. It is not that dependency means only when the object is not available, the person will be happy. It is not like that. Dependency means the presence is also misery, the absence is also misery. This is where it is difficult to understand dependency, because people misunderstand dependency means absence. Dependency says the presence is also misery, the absence is also misery. How do you say that? That is why when the person is there, there is a constant fight, suffocation. When the person is there, constant fight, suffocation. When the person is not there, missing. Are you able to follow? When the person is there, constant fight. You listen to me, I listen to. Why are you not listening to me? Why are you not catering to me? Why are you not attending to me? All this fight happens in the in the presence of that person. So the presence of the person is also causes misery. The absence also causes misery. Yeah. Are you able to associate with your own examples? You can give your own. I'm not saying who's that person. You can easily figure out who is that person that you are possessive and dependent upon. Here we are talking about a spiritual state where the person has become self-sufficient, independent. He is grateful to the presence and serve the person. When the person is there, he is grateful and serves. When the person is not there, when the person is not there, he moves on to the next person. He need not sit and need not sink in sorrow about the absence of the person. Why? Because the world is not just one person. World is not just a few beings. World is there is a millions and billions that needs the services. Are you able to follow? Restricting it to that one or two. Restricting it to one or two is the suffocation. Are you able to follow? Priya? Is it okay, Meera? Okay. Clarification, the same introversion, extroversion, or another clarification?
I don't know if it is the same, but objective knowledge of reality, subjective apprehension of the spiritual.
That is Narayanji's third clarification. Yeah. What Ranjani is asking is exactly your clarification. Exactly the same clarification that Narayanji is also having. What is this? Objective knowledge of the reality and the subjective apprehension. Now, Narayanji's clarification, I'll read out Narayanji's clarification. Does apprehension mean understanding? And the understanding progressive until converted into knowledge. Until converted into knowledge. In other words, apprehension is understanding and knowledge is understood. He's rephrasing it. Narayanji, correct. It's correct. Objective knowledge of the reality. Objective knowledge means a knowledge that who are you? I am the self. You say that. It is an objective knowledge, but you don't have the experience to say I am the self. Are you able to see the difference? Theoretically, you know you are the self. Anybody who attends these classes for a few weeks, you ask them in the class, who are you? The answer will be, I am the self. அந்த அளவுக்கு brain wash பண்றோம் இல்லையா? We brainwash people to that extent. We are brainwashing, hypnotize பண்றோம் people. You are Brahman, you are Brahman. So anybody can say, who are you? I am Brahman. It is objective. It is objective knowledge of reality. But deep down, you don't have an experience of saying,
you are that.
I am the self. So what is subjective apprehension means? What you have heard objectively, you experience it subjectively. What you hear from the Shastras objectively, you understand it subjectively. That is why when we started this Kaivalya Upanishad, I kept on saying in every class, the Guru says Tattvamasi, the Sishya says Aham Brahmasmi. The Guru says Tattvamasi, you are that. The Sishya says Aham Brahmasmi. What the Guru says is object. Tattvamasi is objective knowledge. Aham Brahmasmi is subjective. Till he says Aham Brahmasmi, it is only Tattvamasi for him. The moment he says Aham Brahmasmi, it is no more Tattvamasi after that. It is Aham Brahmasmi. Are you able to see the difference? So, does apprehension mean understanding? Subjective apprehension. Now, in the context of subjective apprehension, it is progressive. Gradually you grow. The understanding and getting closer to the self doesn't happen overnight. It's a progress. It happens progressively, and you will know that you are progressing at every stage. But always you will know only one thing. Always you will know that you are lacking in one thing. What is that one thing that you are lacking in? You are still not able to say Aham Brahmasmi from Anubhava.
Ah.
You are able to say Aham Brahmasmi based on a logical conclusion. See, Aham Brahmasmi now is more of a logical conclusion based on what the Shastra says. For Upanishadic student, he is not interested in the logical conclusion. He wants that Aham Brahmasmi to come by Anubhava. It has to come by Anubhava.
That the self has to speak.
He has to experience it. He has to experience it and says, I am the self. And he must say, I am the self. So objective knowledge means a logical conclusion, I am the self, based on what the Guru and Shastras are saying. But deep down, I am convinced about it, but I don't have the anubhava of it. I don't have the experience of it. Yeah. I have seen the Taj Mahal is beautiful, but I have not experienced. I know the sweet is the best, but I don't have the anubhava of it. So objective knowledge is knowledge gotten through the experience of another. Subjective apprehension means your own experience, and this happens progressively. That's where we talk about the 5 symptoms, the frequency, the intensity, the recovery of the 5, and all that we talk. All these are indicators that you are progressing. In other words, apprehension is understanding and knowledge is understood. Yes, you can say that.
Okay.
You can say that.
Okay, sir.
Is it okay, Narayanji?
Okay, sir.
Huh? Is it okay? Yeah, one more clarification we'll take up. Yes.
The experience in the வார்த்தையில தான் எனக்கு டவுட் இருக்கு. ஏன்னா பிரம்மன் வரும்போது எக்ஸ்பீரியன்ஸ் என்ற வார்த்தை வந்து அங்க பொருத்தமான வார்த்தையான்னு எனக்கு டவுட்ஃபுல்லா இருக்கு. ஏன்னா எப்பவுமே எக்ஸ்பீரியன்ஸ் நீங்க த்ரிபூட்டியை சொல்லி கொடுத்துருக்கேன். எக்ஸ்பீரியன்ஸ்ட் அண்ட் இன் பிட்வீன் த ப்ராசஸ் ஆஃப் எக்ஸ்பீரியன்ஸ் 3 வருஷம்னால பிரம்மனுக்கு எதுவுமே இல்லாத போது எக்ஸ்பீரியன்ஸ்ங்கற வார்த்தை சொல்லணுமா இல்ல நாம வேற ஏதாவது சொல்லணுமா?
The question,
the subjectோட நின்னுறது ஆப்ஜெக்ட்டே கிடையாது அங்க.
Yes. The question that she is asking is, does the word experiencing Brahman is the right word? Because experience means the subject, object, everything comes in. So, what is the right word to describe that? Language doesn't have any word to describe that. Anirvachaniya it is. Language doesn't have any word to describe that. It is indescribable. Language doesn't have any word for that. Are you able to follow? Therefore, how do you understand that experience? Experience is the word that we use because we can understand that word. But technically speaking, even the word anubhava is not the right word. It also has its own limitation. But still we have to keep using that word anubhava because anubhava means a more closer, intimate knowledge. See, when you Anubhava means an intimate knowledge over which you have no doubts. Objective knowledge means a knowledge which still have doubts. Are you able to see the difference? Objective knowledge means a knowledge which still gives doubts. A subjective knowledge means it is so intimate and so close to you that there is no scope for a doubt after that. Taj Mahal. Have you seen Taj Mahal? I have heard about it. I have read about it. You can know about Taj Mahal by hearing about it. You can know about Taj Mahal by reading about it. But then you can see it also. How much ever you hear about Taj Mahal, how much ever you read about Taj Mahal, all that is in no way related to the experience that you get when you see it. What is the difference? Hearing and reading is through the anubhava of another. Seeing is your own experience. So in that sense, we have to use the word experience, but the same Vedanta says the word experience doesn't explain it fully also. That is why it says anirvachaniya. Anirvachaniya means cannot be told in words. Vachana means words. Anirvachaniya means cannot be told in words. Cannot be told in words means indescribable. Words fail to describe that experience. That is why in the Isavasya Upanishad, when we talk about the drama of realization, mantra 16 and 17, when the student talks about the Pushan, Nekar, Sheyam, Surya, Prajapati and all that, in that mantra, the student is getting an experience of Brahman. Even before he can know what it is, the intellect is dissolved. He doesn't know what to say after that. Even before he can, it is dramatized so well. It is called drama of self-realization. Pushan, he said the golden disc. Pushan Nekar Sheyam Surya Prajapati. Beautiful mantra it is. It's called the drama of realization. There is that disc. And it's not the disc of Ajnanam. It's not a dark disc. It's a golden disc. Meaning he's seeing something. It's a golden disc. It's not the disc of Ajnanam. Dark disc illa. It's a golden disc. So there is that golden disc that is covering. So he's seeing something. Even before he can capture it, intellect is dissolved. So aham asmi, saha aham. So what does he say? Saha aham asmi. Saha aham asmi means he is not saying I have become that. Saha aham asmi. Soham asmi. I have been that always. That's beauty. Look at that word there. So beautiful it is. இதெல்லாம் இந்த சட்டிலிட்டி எல்லாம் கேப்சர் பண்றதே டிஃபிகல்ட். Saha aham asmi. Saha aham asmi doesn't mean I have become that. I have realized that I am that always. Then what about the samsara? Which samsara? What samsara are you talking? There is no samsara. But hare, half an hour back I saw you. Last year I saw you. 2 years back I saw you. The person says, I don't know what you are talking about. Saha aham asmi. So that's the Isavasya Mahavakya is Soham asmi. Saha aham asmi. Aham asmi means present continuous. நான் அதுவாகவே இருக்கிறேன் அர்த்தம். அகம் அஸ்மின்னா நான் அதுவாகவே இருக்கிறேன் அப்படின்னா அதுவாகவே இருந்திருக்கிறேன், அதுவாகவே இருக்கிறேன், அதுவாகவே தான் இருப்பேன். But samsarங்கிறது எங்கே? Then where is samsara in this? அதான் aham brahmasmi. When we say aham brahmasmi, it is not that you got liberated from samsara. The person says there was never a there was never a samsar. There was never a samsar. And that cannot be told in words. That experience cannot be described in words. சரியா? Is it okay? சரியா? Is it okay? Narayanji, is it okay, Narayanji?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah. With this, we conclude here and we continue from mantra 23 onwards in the next session.